be in person and work with anyone and get to know a little bit more about the people that make decisions that affect us and the way we serve our organization is really an opportunity we look forward to taking. So thank you for being here. I think we'll start by we'll just give the opportunity for each of us officers to introduce ourselves to you, maybe a little bit of background on what we were doing. Like I said, we're all here at Oklahoma State. We'll go around and kind of tell you our major, what life looks like outside of the Blue and Gold for us on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where we're college students, and then we'll give the opportunity for you three to introduce yourselves as well to us. So, Dave, would you like to start?
My name is Tate Ott. I am a freshman at Oklahoma State University majoring in agricultural education. I'm currently serving as the Northwest Area Vice President for the Oklahoma FFA Association, and I'm originally from Ames, Oklahoma.
My name is Dakota Aller. I'm currently serving as the State FFA Secretary. I'm from the small town of Brewer, Oklahoma, northwest Oklahoma, and my major is construction engineering technology, so I am the oddball of the team.
Awesome. Good morning, guys. My name is Jacob Nunley. I am from Tecumseh, and I'm currently serving as the Central Area Vice President. I'm also a freshman at Oklahoma State, where I'm majoring in agricultural education.
My name is Caden Shoffley. I'm from Hobart, Oklahoma, and I'm currently serving as the Southwest Area Vice President. I'm also a freshman, and I am studying agribusiness pre-law.
Hello, my name is Karsten Cantrell. I graduated from Skytech High School, and I'm currently a freshman at Oklahoma State, double majoring in agricultural education and agricultural communications. And this year I'm serving as the Northeast Area Vice President.
And I am Taylor Taylor. I'm serving as our state president this year. I am from Adair, so for those of you not from Oklahoma, if you've heard of Tulsa, if you go about 45 minutes to an hour northeast of there, that's where I live, right on the Grand Lake. I'm a sophomore at OSU, majoring in agricultural education as well, so my hope is to continue pursuing the Blue and Gold after this, and to be an FFA advisor and agricultural instructor. So that's kind of my passion, and that's why I am here. There's several of us on the team. I know for Dr. Mack and our state staff, that makes me very excited to see some ag ed majors within our state officers. Secretary Arthur, if you'd like to take away, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Sure, certainly. I will be brief. Originally from Oklahoma, a product of the FFA program, so always enjoy the opportunity to visit with those in the Blue and Gold. I live actually just not too far from here, so east of Stillwater a little bit. My kids go to school, a small school, Ripley, and very excited. My son will be in 8th grade next year, Dr. Mack, so we get to get started in the FFA program. But in this formal capacity, I work as the Secretary of Agriculture for Governor Stitt. Part of that is being in charge of the Oklahoma Department of Ag, Food, and Forestry, so this has been certainly an exciting and interesting year in the ag world, and just glad to be here with everyone and look forward to the discussion.
Well, I'm Mike Beatty, and I'm from Athens, Georgia. Y'all know where the university is located. Like Sadie, we're Sadie, backing up Sadie. I've had the honor of serving in the state legislature as a state representative and senator, and have worked with Secretary Perdue for the last 20 years. He's one of the finest gentlemen. Has he been to Oklahoma State? We had Secretary Perdue here. Right?
Not the university.
He's the real deal. He is, and he loves working with young folks. Y'all probably heard him speak at several of your conventions. You know, he's a great proponent of FFA, and just a good guy. And you look at his motto, do right, right? Do right. That's what y'all's parents told you when you came here, right? Do right. I have 3 grandsons about y'all's age, so anyway, do right and feed everyone. And so I'm the director of the Office of Partnership and Public Engagement, and we work with all the land-grant universities, 1862, 1890s tribal and Hispanic serving institutions, and it's our goal. We report directly to the secretary. You know, USDA is a huge organization, and you know, we're kind of founded in 1862, known as the People's Department. And really, when we were over at Langston, I was just really impressed with how USDA over the years has really worked with our colleges and universities and land grants to make things better. So it's just an honor to be here. I appreciate this opportunity and looking forward to hearing from you. And I got some questions to ask. Do I get to ask the question? This feels like a debate. Are we running against each other? Can we get to ask the questions, Riley, or are they? I mean,
Whatever you wanna do,
can
sir.
we ask them some questions? Okay, I got some questions for y'all. So, especially you need a tough question. Anyway.
I'm Trish Ranson, State Representative for House District 34, which is right here in the heart of Stillwater. I've been the state representative for this district for the last 2 years. Before that, I was the music teacher at Westwood Elementary for 15 years. I grew up in Ponca City. I am a city kid. I did not experience anything with FFA until my children, who are now college age, until their friends were in FFA and started hearing stories from them. And then this last 2 years of really the Stillwater FFA has been flourishing amazingly these last 2 years, and so been trying to educate myself based on their experience. So I feel like the odd man out because this is a new experience for me, but I love new experiences, and I'm ready to have a discussion. This will be awesome.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can provide some clarification on some of this. And Stillwater is flourishing. Several national champions this week at National Theater Division, so very proud of them. To get things started off, just maybe so it doesn't feel like a big for you guys, what other questions you have for us? We'll get into that first. We'll give you a chance to speak.
Okay. You want me to ask the question?
Absolutely. And if they're directly
well, it's really interesting. The other day we were in Little Rock, Arkansas, and at a meeting. I met y'all in Oklahoma, so we were down by the downtown Little Rock, and there's a group of young people there that were in the Clinton Policy Center. And so it was a great group of kids, and they were listening to us. We were talking there, and so as I was just interacting about y'all's age, I said, what do y'all think are the 3 major issues facing our country? And it was really interesting. We don't have to get into all that, but the point was they were so articulate and they so gave some ideas. And here, the things they shared with me, and we kind of interacted a little bit. One, we got to deal with the immigration issue. I know this could be a little bit beyond just agriculture, but it is part of agriculture, that issue. And the second one was health care. And the third one, and this is the one I really wanted to ask y'all a question about, what role, the third one was, how do we, when you have the affluent families in our country, say for every $100 of assets that an affluent family has, someone from a tougher situation has about $10. How do we bring that into focus, and what role could agriculture play? And what role could you play in economic development as we go forward? Because I think it's so important. If you look at rural America, the opportunities we have over the next 20, 30 years. I'm looking out here at some really great young people that you should be leaders. You should be state representatives. You should be, I taught history. I was a history teacher and football coach. How many of y'all can tell that? Y'all know why football coaches teach history? Well, they figure we can't mess that up. It's already happened, So how do you see that? What role would you see? This is just a question. I hope I'm doing okay. I'm just looking down. I don't know. How would you see agriculture and your leadership making a difference over the next 20 years in providing hope and opportunity for communities and asset building and wealth creation? That makes sense?
Well, I would say probably one thing is agriculture right now is kind of a dying breed. Less than 1% of the American population is actively farming and really going through that process. And so there are countless jobs and opportunities given through the agricultural world that are just waiting to be jumped upon, taken up. So that is one way that agriculture can definitely help out those that may be less fortunate, or those looking for those opportunities. If they're right there in front, they just need to grab them.
All right. All of y'all got to pitch in here now, so that's probably
One thing that I think the world is starting to face now is we're seeing a lot more urbanization and urban farming in particular. And so I think just having a strong agricultural literacy to members in society in cities and urban-based communities to know that they can be a part of agriculture, and it's not just, rural Oklahoma or rural America, just providing agricultural literacy stance to Americans so they can have rooftop gardens or hydroponics and still be a part of the agriculture industry, but just in a different way.
Do you feel like we could have entrepreneurs on small acres of, plots of land make profit in urban areas? Is that something, I think that's what I heard you say, is that something that, we were looking at a book up from Tuskegee called How to Make $100,000 on 5 acres of land. Would y'all help us do that? How many y'all would be interested in having 5 acres of land making $100,000? See, this is the deal. This is the deal, Madam Secretary. These folks, it's all, that's exciting. Does that excite you a little bit, that you can make that kind of money? So, okay, all right, that's a good answer.
I think the way, the United States agriculture is a big part. The United States agriculture feeds a lot of the world. We need it to feed America, and we don't have the employment we need to sustain everybody with a growing population. I mean, there's 7.6 billion people in the world right now. With population growth, I think there's going to be need for more agricultural areas, and like Jacob said, there's a lot more urban farming that's going to be done. And I think the employment across the nation needs to increase so we can be able to sustain the United States agriculture and other countries that we help.
How do you think the pandemic has really brought agriculture back into focus? How do you think it's kind of got people thinking a little bit more about the importance of agriculture?
I think a big part in that is when everything shut down, they realized how much agriculture plays a part in everybody's lives because we have to feed everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a vegan or not, or
What's a
you buy
vegan?
food at the
Is that a vegan place like
We don't have those in Oklahoma.
What's that place out of that, Rob? What's the name of that restaurant?
but it was not a vegan.
That one a vegan?
Yeah,
Is that a Star Wars thing? What is it?
Well,
I'm kidding, y'all make me think I'm right.
with that being said, everybody needs agriculture, and I think with everything shutting down, we haven't had the opportunity to get the agricultural ways out into the world because stores have been shut down, so people have kind of had a less sustaining food amount, and they're not being able to feed their families, and I think that's plays a big part.
We have the Farmers to Families Food Box Program. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but that's something the Secretary can do. And I'll have to tell you, not to brag on an Oklahoma State person, but Riley Paget has been just one of the key proponents of that and making that happen. Riley, how many families have been fed through that program?
We just did about 170 million boxes.
That's fantastic.
Now, when yesterday, early in the morning, we were in Anoa doing the food box program, and when we saw 200 cars coming through to get that food had to be produced, right? I mean, if we didn't have that food, there'd be some people going hungry. So, I mean, I think that's just well said, but I think keep that in mind, is that we got to do right. We got to feed people all over the world. So, yes, sir.
I think something that has been pretty challenging lately, where I'm from, growing up on a small family farm, you don't see that much, at least where I'm from. More of it now is just big corporate agricultural organizations that have kind of taken over the farm. Your cooperatives are run by like ADM, like just bigger corporations, and you're not really going back to the small family farm, the small town type deals that you normally saw, just because people are not coming back to farming. And kind of touch on what Jacob said, we are experiencing a population growth and we're having to produce more food than we ever had with less amount of land that we've had. So I think something that's challenging is how are we going to continue to feed the world with less land. And I mean, we talked about urbanization, farming, and everything, but just to continue the production of food throughout the world, and especially with this pandemic going on.
Do you think that, what do you think we could do to really incentivize small operations? What are some things like, how big is your farm, your family farm?
So our farm is right around 1,000 acres, 700 acres for wheat and around 300 for just pasture for cattle. And not very, I mean, you just see not very many people coming back to small family farms, and it's getting kind of handed over to bigger names, you know, people that are taking over and farming more land and everything, so you're just not seeing it as much.
So rather than father or parents passing the farm down to kids, they're retiring and they're selling the land?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in order to incentivize, let's say, you know, because one of the big things that I hear is, well, kids come to the bigger city, they go to college, they like the idea of city life, and they don't want to go back to small town where they came from. But what if we were able to establish statewide broadband service where you could have internet access anywhere in the state, and that would still be able to have a connection to the world? Would that be something that would go, oh, well, if I had amenities like I did in my college town, but at home, I would totally move home? Would that be something that would be incentive?
Yeah, and another thing that I feel that has caused this is the way that, I mean, just from the way I've seen it with farming, is that right now wheat is, I mean, right now I believe it's at $5 right now. But normally, you know, we're looking at that $4 per bushel, you know, and everything else in the economy has went up. But farming has just kind of stayed right where it's been, you know, since, you know, the 50s and 60s. I mean, my grandpa talked about how, you know, the wheat prices were the same, you know, as he was growing up. So financially, I feel like that's where a lot of people decide if they want to come back to the farm or if they want to take on a new profession as well. So those are some of the challenges that I've seen throughout the agriculture industry.
You want to go back to the farm?
So my major is in agricultural education, and I'm hoping to be an FFA advisor, hopefully somewhere in northwest Oklahoma where I could continue to help my family back on the small family farm.
Listen, y'all, I just kind of.
Well, I'm interested on the representative's question because we tend to see your generation, if there really is interest in going back, we have learned a lot through this pandemic in regards to telework. We've learned that certainly has its challenges. I live not too far from Stillwater, and the service at my house is not ideal, to say the least. But do you think, as we have learned that a lot of folks can telework because we have been forced to, do you think your generation is that enough to incentivize you? We talk so much about the challenges we have in rural Oklahoma and certainly rural America, and sustaining that. Do you think it's as simple as, you know, making sure we have rural broadband and that stands up, or is it more important to you all to be able to have a Starbucks on the corner and you know, activities like going to the show or food truck, those kind of things? Do you think it's something, and it's certainly not simple, as the director knows, to get all the broadband challenges resolved, but do you think that really drives it, or do you think we see that turnaround in rural Oklahoma or not?
I think that initiative to establish that rural broadband is something that could definitely benefit, like Tate talks about, those family farms, because I know for myself, we have a very small cow-calf operation, about 40 head, we rotational graze those, and we don't have a lot of land to work with, but it's more of a hobby, because looking into it, my dad grew up on a very large cow-calf operation, and he knew that for himself to be stable financially, to put himself in a position that he could provide the way he wanted to for his family, he needed to get a job of some sort within agriculture so he could still have those ties. And I think, like you said, establishing that rural broadband where we have those abilities to telework from home, it's really good to keep those family farms running because you can do that while also working from home. And I think for myself, that's kind of enticing to think that I can still have a job and be professional in the professional world of agriculture, but still go outside and feed cows. You know, we talked about earlier, this ice storm makes a person like myself really grateful that I'm here at college and my dad is the one feeding the cows, and like, you know, but I can still do that if I had that rural broadband. I think it's an initiative that needs to be taken, and I think it could be really beneficial, especially in those family farm settings.
I think part-time farming, when I was teaching school, I had a poultry house and 20 mama cows and just did that, you know, for extra money, you know. And, you know, I think you can actually, I think today though, we could take that same 25 acres I had and make it extremely productive and maybe partner, you know. And y'all heard of free-range poultry? I had 14, by the way, I ended up with 14 poultry houses. Now that's a lot of manure, y'all know that? I mean, that's a lot. But the point
Litter,
is.
we call it litter.
And, but that was that big farm that was really tough because, I mean, I had a lot of money in those poultry houses, and so I found out I had way more fun when I had the smaller, you know, operation. And so we just did the E-Connect, right, Riley? Where was that at? What counties?
Yeah, we were just in Shakota yesterday.
Yeah.
And USDA announced 3 Rural Broadband Reconnect Awards. Congressman Mark McMullen was there. Betty Brand, who's the Deputy Undersecretary for Rural Development at USDA. Basically, that program works. I'm definitely going to butcher this, and so go look online to check my facts after this conversation. But it's a program where local investors or electricians and electric companies can invest in communities, and it's a matched grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And so, again, announcing 3 of those yesterday in Shakota alone. There are more to come in Oklahoma. I think they're certainly on the horizon, and Oklahoma is one of the top states in those receiving those awards. To talk a little bit to what you were speaking about, making sure that folks can go back to their home communities to be productive citizens and to get the access to the broadband that they need and deserve.
To get that private sector involved, you know, with the public sector is so important. So now, this young lady, I can't remember my original question. Can you remember the original question I asked, because we've been moved?
You were talking about the point of view of what we see as kind of facing agriculture and what we can do to combat that. And so originally, kind of the thing that I was thinking was something that the boys hit on, especially from the farm to table point of view. I don't know if you guys realize how much is happening in our own backyard. So like the Ludivine Kitchen in Oklahoma City, the Bramble in Tulsa, the Living Kitchen in Depew, these are all places that are taking produce and different products from local family farms and Amish markets and different things that are happening around the community so that they can have a menu that changes every single day depending on what's happening in their community. And so I think that's something that people kind of overlook is the own things that are happening in your backyard. But then from the other point of view of what's happening kind of in the FFA Association, from a leadership point of view, we're having a lot of different chapters and 8th grade chapters, different members from younger ages trying to be involved in a leadership point of view. And so I also think that's something that we're kind of doing to help out. And I know we set it as a personal goal this year to talk to chapters, maybe with a new ag teacher or a new charter, so that we can get to better know things that are happening from a point of view that we don't always see as a state officer.
You know, our daily bread here in Stillwater has their own garden as well, and they use the produce from that garden to offset the produce that they get for donations for the food boxes. And so I think that's a really great partnership as well.
I don't know the numbers, but I'm hoping you all do. If you share with the director the beef sticks and pork sticks, share those numbers. I think it'd be interesting for you to hear that go to the regional food bank, that one of you can talk to that. I think that'd be great for him to hear.
Absolutely, everyone's looking at me, so I guess I'll take it. Last year and the year before that as well, Oklahoma FFA had worked with our regional food bank, the Oklahoma Regional Food Bank and the Eastern Oklahoma Regional Food Bank, both of those. We had worked to produce over 1 million pork sticks that will go into backpacks within suits here in the public school system in Oklahoma. So we do that by, and And some of you officers, have any of you donated animals to that program before? I have as well. You can donate any of your livestock at any of our state fairs. You can just call at any point, and those people that run that program, they will take those donations. Sometimes they will sell those animals at market to offset the processing costs. But we donate those animals here in Oklahoma, and you get recognition at state convention as a chapter. But we're able to produce over 2 million pork sticks so far just within the past 2 years, and that's not even counting years previous. So that's a big program that we push a lot because, like Carson said, sometimes you don't even realize what's happening in your own backyard. I was lucky enough to do that in high school, to be one of those people that worked with the regional food bank and administering those food and the stuff that they would give to those families, and very eye-opening, like Carson said, for sure. But we're struggling this year, and this might be a question for the both of you. With that program, we're struggling this year to produce those pork sticks because our local processing facilities here in Oklahoma are booked. I know my family and myself, we sell beef off the hoof. We send it to rail all the time, and people are buying from us. And we have appointments booked into 2022 right now. If you think about it, those calves haven't even hit the ground yet. And so we are booking those appointments because we're afraid we won't have any. What would you guys suggest? What does that look like in the meat processing industry for those people? For us, we have that program, we're not able to process the meat. What are some changes or some things you see in that, just in respect of meat processing?
Well, I'll give an Oklahoma perspective and certainly defer to you from a national perspective. That's probably the #1 challenge that folks saw as they walked into grocery stores and they didn't find the protein that they were expecting to see in those cases. I think here in Oklahoma, we've been incredibly fortunate. Governor Stitt allocated $10 million to go out to support meat processing facilities here in the state. So that would be everything from custom exempt to state and federally inspected. So we have 40 facilities that received those funds that will increase that processing capacity. But then more specific to career tech, Dr. Mack and her staff did some fabulous work with putting together some online training courses because when we talk to these facilities, they say labor is a huge challenge for us, and certainly that's skilled labor. And so Dr. Mack and her staff stood up that curriculum. So there's the 2 online portions, and I know we've got some of our FFA chapters that are even utilizing that, and then we'll be rolling out the 3rd portion, which is a hands-on training. So the challenges, we were very behind prior to the pandemic as far as processing here in the state. We don't have any large processing facilities here in Oklahoma, at least specific to beef, for sure. And so we've talked to a lot of those facilities. I was actually visiting with 2 of those facilities yesterday in southeastern Oklahoma. So as far as number of head a day, we'll increase that by about 800 head on the beef cattle side, which isn't as much as ideally we would like to do, but we've made some really positive steps here. And then all that kind of loops back around to talking about where your food comes from and people caring about that, because now I think we have really awakened a lot of consumers that say, I want to support an Oklahoma beef producer or pork producer, poultry producer, and so we're working to get that capacity up so they can identify those products and purchase those. But nationally, that's an even bigger ball of wax, so I'll kick it over to Director.
Well, I think as a result of the pandemic, we realized we got to be more diversified in all these areas, and having the Oklahoma-based beef and the processors. And one of the things I know as we travel, Riley, we've gone to all these different universities. We actually have processing entities at the 1890s, the Hispanic Service of the 1862. I'm sure we have processing facilities for local markets, which I think is a really positive thing. And we do have funding to work with a business. I was with a processing plant in Tifton, Georgia. You know where Tifton is? Spend some time there. And how to expand, that private sector. And they've got a group of small cattle operators who are, really, that's their market, and then they're able to really have some stores there that really, they're selling out. People are lined up. You go to some of these places, and you'll have 100 people in line to come in and get this great product. So I think what we should do at the national level is make more funding available through our different programs that we have to expand to the private sector, to smaller producers, so that we don't get in a situation, again, where you have to shut down these huge facilities and then there's no flow of products, so.
You're right, I think, the mindset of, okay, well, if we send it to the larger ones, it's cheaper, it's easier, all
Yeah.
that. But the pandemic has shown us that it's not just an issue of profits, it's national security. I mean, our food
Yeah.
pipeline, that is a national security issue, and we need to be looking at it more on the local level and making sure that there's backups to the system at all times, and so that way we don't have a population without protein, without.
And they have well-trained folks in these facilities, and, there's some butchers who make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, the certified, you know what I'm saying, that, it's a great, job opportunity, I think, there, and I know y'all are working with some of those types of.
Yes.
What types of you alluded to it, but what?
Yeah, I'll defer to Dr. Mack, she certainly knows all the details.
So we have the opportunity for some, they may have box beef, some do go straight from slaughter, harvest,
Right.
and through those particular areas. So in the training and curriculum that's set up, we do have 11 agriculture education programs that will be putting in the majority of that. They'll start with the box beef all the way to packaging and labeling, so that it would be available. If they had a local producer that they partnered with, they'd be able to do that. We are offering in a couple of other sectors as well. But students right now have the opportunity to obtain the 4 certifications. The American Meat Producers Association has certified. They can do that. Friday we were notified that Panhandle State University will provide them 4 hours of college credit for that particular piece, because they do have production as well. We're working with 2 other universities to do that as well. And the Oklahoma State University, for the slaughter piece, our students who have obtained that certification will be able to go through that process there, because they do have the live kill floor, that we can have students go through that process. So depending on what their occupational outcome that they're looking at when we're talking meat processing, we should have those on and off ramps available, not only for our students that are currently in the pipeline, but for those who need to bring individuals on right now. We have one local producer here that would like to take their individuals who've been providing customer service and obtain the certification, so that they could also go behind in the line and provide some other skill sets there, so that they have that cross-sector training. If some are not able to come to work for a 14-day period, then they have the ability with that cross-train that they're not closing down their production line, which is what they ran into recently. So,
What's the length of time to get the certification?
For the certification in the courses for actually the American certification piece, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for the first 2 sectors. On the hands-on component, depending on where they are at, we are looking at anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks in that process for them to go through that and obtain certain levels of industry certification.
So it doesn't always require a 4-year education to make a good living, right?
Correct.
It's obvious it does. If you're gonna teach, you're gonna teach. I knew I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. It's gonna take 4 years. So you've got a lot of folks coming, maybe from some tougher situations than we've come from, that would look at an opportunity like that and say, this is a way to really, provide for my family. And so, do y'all have any poverty in Oklahoma, or we got it all in Georgia? You got at-risk youth. See, y'all are such great role models as leaders. Think about all the young people coming from tougher situations, single-parent homes, folks that have been kind of trapped in what I call that entitlement mentality. And we work a lot with those kids. And our goal is to work with our land-grant universities and our high schools to identify those youth and get them around people like you, folks like you, to be leaders, so they got role models, so they can look at you and say, hey, you know what, I can break that cycle of poverty. And a lot of times we're able to we call it kids and companies, we're able to partner when companies who will do paid internships while they're still in high school, you know, working part-time, they go to school half a day and get their academic credits, and they work half a day and get academic credits. And a lot of times these kids are making 12 to 15 bucks an hour, working 20 hours a week and still playing football or doing all the other things. And how many of y'all remember that first sale you made, that first paycheck? A paycheck, how many of y'all had that first paycheck already, or you sold something that made a profit with? Let me tell you something, a paycheck can change a life. You with it? You know, profit is a good thing. Being an entrepreneur is a good thing. And, you know, creating wealth is a good thing. So, but that's exciting. I'm glad to see you doing it.
We actually got notice today, the walk-in freezers for those locations are in Oklahoma. They arrived today in Oklahoma, and the first one will be set up on November the 4th. So we should have them up and operational by the first of the year.
You know, I might just add on one thing, in talking, I'm so glad that so many of you all want to be ag teachers. You all are saying advisors, I still say ag teachers, so I need to change that, Mr. Chekhov will work on that, but, I certainly am a product of the FFA program and attribute so much of my success to that. But I feel that I was very fortunate to have been raised in a household where I think my parents would have encouraged me to be successful, you know, just had I been an FFA or not. But what I saw, I went to Chickasha, husband and wife, ag teacher team, first female ag teacher in the state of Oklahoma was my ag teacher. No, my ag teacher was. We had kids that came because they needed an elective, right? And so they got into Miss Stevens horticulture class, or they got in the shop class. Well, those kids found something that they cared about and someone who cared about them. And until that point in time, no one had done that. And so a lot of them participated in a CDE event, or they did meat judging, or they worked in the greenhouse, and a lot of them went to college and were the first kids in their family to ever go to college. So I'm so excited that you all want to be ag teachers, because you'll have kids come into your classroom that are going to be successful no matter what. And it's your job to help them achieve even more success. But you will truly change the trajectory of people's lives when they come through your doors into your ag building, because you give them a place to succeed. And that, I think, breaking that chain is what's so important, because I could right now tell you probably 10 kids off the top of my head that were my age in school, had they not come into the ag room, they would not have seen the success, and very likely would have had just continued a circle of discouraging circumstances had they not come into the program. So, and we need more ag teachers, so please continue on your path to being an ag teacher.
Great.
I think one question that we definitely have, as an officer team, streaming this to our membership here in Oklahoma, what are some of those incentives from the USDA to keep people our age within agriculture, whether that be at the local farm, you know, back home? I know I took out the FSA new farmer loan and bought 3 cows, and now it's helping me pay for a truck in college because I grew that herd. And what are some of those incentives that we can find for people our age in the membership we serve? Maybe not just in, you know, local home farming, but maybe in agri-science and research and things like those. What are some of those incentives?
Riley and Sadie, I'm gonna let y'all, Sadie's our youth person, and I know we've got a lot of scholarships and internship opportunities. Riley, you know some things, so we'll bring y'all into the foray here.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. That's a very encouraging story. That's exactly what we want to do with USDA. We want to be able to build your wealth and be able to invest in your future, and now we can get around Stillwater. I think that's awesome. I think the amount of assistance that USDA can provide to youth interested in agriculture and investing in youth or in rural communities is phenomenal. I had no clue before stepping into this position. And I really want to turn this back on y'all. As state officers, you have a really unique opportunity to meet with students. I know that looks weird right now. But you have a really unique opportunity to meet with students and say, hey, share your story about being able to take that youth loan or that new farmer loan and turn that into something that you take advantage of today. You have a really cool opportunity to go to these students and say, you can be an entrepreneur too. You can take advantage of the opportunities USDA gives as well. And I know you're being specific about as asking the programs that we have, so I want to talk about that too. The number one thing that I really want to touch on is our internship opportunities. The careers at the USDA. I know Director Beatty may have mentioned this, but we're the People's Department for a reason. We invest in communities and agriculture a lot. So the career opportunities at USDA is legitimately endless. If you're into accounting, if you're into educating, if you're into agri-science, whatever, there is a spot for you across the country. And so our internship program that we have is a Pathways program. It's a federal program. And you spend a couple of semesters or a summer in the program, and that rolls over into a conversion into a career in the federal government one day. So let's say you spend a summer working in an APHIS lab, an animal and food inspection service, or whatever that may be. If you work with an agency, you can take that time during the summer, and that's like put on this report card with the federal government that you've already spent time working, and that goes into different pay levels, experience levels. It's really just an investment in your career in the federal government. So the job conversion there is really important. And like I said, we have a ton of agencies, a ton of opportunities. So anything you're interested in, we can probably plug you in. So selfishly, I have to show you all those applications for the summer, open November 1st. So definitely apply and share that story as well. I'll let Riley talk some more.
I was just adding, Sadie is the youth guru. Many of you might remember that the 2018 Farm Bill established an ag youth coordinator position, and National FFA heavily advocated for that in that Farm Bill inclusion language. That's Sadie's shop. I mean, there's a whole shop dedicated to ag youth organizations that make sure voices like yours are heard when policy discussions are being had with the secretary or undersecretaries. And so, just I guess to echo what Sadie said, don't ever underestimate that we're talking about FFA regularly at USDA. Right. We're talking about the interests of young people at farming and ag regularly. To the internship point, you can intern in Washington, D.C., you can intern in Stillwater, Oklahoma, you can intern in Juneau, Alaska. It doesn't matter where you're from, we have students doing that all the time. And that experience doesn't just convert to that particular duty location, but to USDA as a whole. So let's say you want to go to Louisiana for a summer, and then be in Washington, D.C. as after your collegiate education, you can do all of those things through USDA. In the folder in front of you, Sadie's put some more information on internships there. There's also third-party internships that could help pay for your travel to DC. You're not just getting paid for your internship, but they'll pay for housing or for your travel. And the last thing I'll touch on, and then I'll be quiet, Mike, is that there is a New Beginning Farmer Advisory Committee. It's a congressional mandate through a Farm Bill of the past that USDA is statutorily required to uphold. It's 15 or 20 members every 3 years. They serve 3-year terms to give advice to whatever secretary is there, no matter the administration, on things that matter about new beginning farmers and the things we're talking about here today. And so that next release or call for application will come out, I guess in a few months. And so I'll be sure to share that with Mr. Lucas and crew, and we would love any of you or all of you to apply and to eventually be selected in a capacity like that. Just a cool way to share your story and to talk about anything from youth operating loans to internship opportunities to what someone needs to get back to the family farm operation.
And I see USDA careers, to me, are really similar to teaching. I felt those when I was teaching and coaching. There was never a day that I got up in the morning and dreaded going to work. I love it, and I think we got a lot of folks here, I'm going to encourage you, just as you did, that you stay in education, but at USDA, there's a ton of opportunities. As if you think about the next 20, 30 years, the real opportunities for growth in America are in rural areas. Think about that. We have to have leaders. That next greatest generation, some of y'all have heard, maybe your great-grandparents are the greatest generation, but the next greatest generation of Americans, I believe, are going to come from rural areas. That's going to be where the growth is going to be. There are acres of diamonds in rural America. And that's what you all, that's your leadership opportunity. I've got one grandson, he's convinced he's going to be farming on the moon. Now think about that for just a second. You ever thought about that? How many of y'all believe that might be a possibility in the next 30 years? You ever thought about that? How many of y'all watched the movie The Martian? You kind of remind me of that guy. I think you could do that. But the point is, it is literally unlimited what you can achieve. You just got to set those goals high, believe in yourself, build a team of folks around you so that you know where the goalposts are. The thing I love about FFA is a little bit like a football team. You guys have to kind of huddle up. You ever seen a football team? Is OSU going to no huddle offense? I don't know. The thing about coaching, when folks get in a huddle, whether it's an FFA huddle or it's a football huddle, we're all on the same page. Really, it's people coming together. They're not being broken apart, but coming together to achieve greatness. And that's what America's all about. And that's what you're all about. And so I'm going to encourage you, think about USDA. We are the people's department. We're the most influential federal department, period, because we're in every county in the United States of America. Did y'all know that? Our presence is in every county. And so we need great young people like you and like Sadie. We kind of convinced Sadie, but I think I don't know. She's really wanting to make some money, so I don't know.
Well, you think about farming on the moon. I mean, those of you who are ag ed majors, my guess is you've had a rock star ag ed teacher. So you're taking what you know and you want to go the next step with it. And I would agree, rural America is the gem right there. But you have to be looking at it from a futurist point of view as opposed to how it's always been done. Because that's what's going to be the next step, is to be thinking bigger picture than just, okay, now I was an ag ed, I'm going to be an ag ed teacher. And you may very well be an ag ed teacher, and that's awesome. This also might just be the first step in a completely different journey that takes you in a different area, like you said, USDA, or an entrepreneur in a very different way, but then somehow it ties back to your ag experience. And so as a mom with kids your age, use college, use it. You've got so many different people with different viewpoints and different ideas and different, yes, and learn from that, and then learn about yourself from that, because that will make you better at whatever you end up deciding you're going to do. It's all of that experience, and use those opportunities, like the scholarships and those types of things. I mean, yes, that's fantastic. So anyway, that's my take on it.
Absolutely, we couldn't agree more. Well, Representative Branson, Secretary Arthur, to the director of the group, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and thank you for giving an opportunity for us to discuss with you what's really affecting agriculture and agricultural education here in Oklahoma. Our membership, I think, will enjoy to view our roundtable to see what we were able to come up with and kind of discuss and to be better educated. So thank you guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I think we'll transition into some lunch. I think we have some McAllisters, and so we'll work on some box lunches and just socialize. So that is the conclusion of our roundtable. Thank you guys.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you. So I'll figure the score is going to be, write this down, 45